All right, you guys good? So, yep, we'll call the Cable and Broadband Internet Commission to order. See, as far as who's in attendance,
Very loud.
Rob Capone,
Jeff Abrams.
Luis Rodriguez.
Suzanne Woodland, Deputy City Manager and Regulatory Council. And the Ash Chicory will probably be joining us in a few minutes by Zoom. Just so you know.
all right, everybody have a chance to review minutes from, let's see, last meeting, which was March 5th.
I'll make a
Okay.
motion to approve.
All right,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. All right, so we move on to item 3, the PPM TV update. When you're ready. Yes, I'm sorry. You're
That's all
you do
right.
all the work.
Do you want to share? You have the smile, Gary, can.
I finally got around to going for a tour. And I'll let you go ahead. I had no idea what was going on.
So the city did advise PPM TV Executive Director probably last month that we were anticipating there would be no excess funds, as I reported here. We received notice, they put some press out that suggests that they are going to wrap up.
Yeah.
And close.
Okay.
So.
That's the message.
That sucks.
So that's all I know. I haven't had any conversations, but I just wanted to make sure you were.
So
aware.
not to talk while the body's not even cold yet, but at this point, the money then at this point from franchise fee, anything over the 360 goes into general funds.
Yes,
Okay. Not that we anticipate there will be any in the coming, like it was projected that looking, it would not be above the 360.
correct.
Okay.
That was just a city council policy.
Yep.
So therefore, the city council through the next budget document could.
Yep.
Indicate that those funds are done.
Yep. Okay.
And will stay just in the general fund, and, we're already planning for the fact that those will diminish
Right.
and we'll change our revenue forecasts accordingly.
Okay. All right. Everybody good? All right. So we move on to item 4, cell service experience survey.
And before we start going through the actual survey document that Lewis did, and yay.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah.
I will say, I'll just give you a bit of kind of additional perspective as you're think about where we push surveys out to. I talked with our economic development manager, and he has a new software program to connect to businesses. So it's a business database, which he's in the process of kind of getting fully up and cleaned up.
Okay.
And it will allow us to push out a survey to just the businesses. So if you like what you've done here, know that you can you could do something else specific to the businesses to push out to the businesses. And you could push them out. He has the ability to push them out by location. So right now he's got businesses grouped along Lafayette, Pease Tradeport, the Route 1 corridor, the downtown overlay, Woodbury Avenue, South End, West End, North End. So he's got, like I said, groups. So if you wanted a different set of questions, or if you wanted to do a survey to say just the Lafayette group first and see what kind of response you get and whether the survey worked, you could do that. And then we could push another one out to the various business community members in various sections of the city.
Mhm.
So I thought I'd let you know that that might be a great way to really specifically target businesses and do it by area. And if you want the slow roll, how well did that survey work with this group? And if we needed to adjust it, then we could do so before pushing the second one out. So
Is
just
there,
know
and
you've
I
got
guess
some options.
sort of one question is obviously that's one way of sort of sequestering information so that we can make sure that it's properly locate, that, because it's one thing for somebody to say, okay, I'm from this location, but if we're actually able to keep the responses to a specific location, we can make, verify that, okay, yes, this group, this area here, the response we got were just from Pease. The response we got, so we can properly index it potentially without, while at the same time anonymizing it.
It wouldn't tell us where the response came from?
Well, I don't know. It would depend on
Like,
how.
you know,
the-
Depend on what you put in the survey.
But
It
if-
won't unless you ask specific questions, but he will know that he will push out to businesses located
Right.
along the Lafayette corridor.
Yeah, because it's
or in the
probably a
downtown.
general link. It's up to the respondent to answer that question.
Right, you know what I'm doing.
They may not be interested in answering it,
Right.
for whatever reason. So I guess again, I'm sure it's all sort of under the hood things depending on, but normally with a survey, I would think you'd want to try to anonymize it anyway.
But why wouldn't
So-
you want to send it to everybody in each one of these sections?
I think that my thought would be that way we could sort of be able to get general information like, okay, yeah, it looks like Pease, they are fine.
Right.
There are no complaints here. They're happy with the service. So we know that, that's my only thought.
But
Yeah,
wouldn't
I
tell-
think, I think that
I'm sorry,
basically it's gonna be in
driving.
phases. Yeah, no, I think it can be done in phases essentially. So I think we can decide on what goes first, which we're
Right,
figuring
yeah,
out now.
sorry,
So like
I'm
the first thing would be like, we figure out what kind of information we want to get from the public. Cool. I thought about figuring out a way to do this same exact thing, exactly what you're thinking about, using just different surveys with QR codes. I don't know, so basically if we just have like a survey called like West End Portsmouth, we reach out through the businesses, maybe through the pool, and be like, would you be interested in, and I'm hoping that we can get some monies, like $50 for printing for QR codes and stuff like that. If we could get those distributed, and the QR code is specific to like a West End Portsmouth survey, Pease Portsmouth, you know what I mean? And so so we already know. And then, so if anybody's taking the picture and they're on, Islington Street, that it's going to be already kind of located or kind of
Right.
grouped by general location that we're essentially determining. So I thought about that is like, we can make this really complex and have multiple multiple of the same survey, but different URLs essentially, so that we can then track and we'd get responses for each survey individually, and we'd see all the and then we could aggregate all of them and be like, these are responses from Pease, these are responses from whatever regions we kind of maybe have to figure out, maybe based on what we know, like I know like near the water, so we can come up with like a quadrant. So, I don't know. So I thought about that already in a way, kind of doing the same thing. So that's one way. I don't know how successful the QR code thing is. I don't really know how much we'd actually get from it. So like it might be more work than it's worth, because I think that the biggest feedback that we're gonna get is probably through it's blanking my mind, quick survey.
Survey Monkey.
No, the like, what's the new like
Flash vote?
flash vote or like a Portsmouth survey that they've done in the past, like something
Right. we
that's
pushed
like
it.
very pushed and you get like instantaneous feedback rather than this. We reach out to businesses, we ask them if they're willing to put up a QR code, we put up the QR codes, and then we wait like 2 months for
Right.
people to maybe take a picture of it and notice it while they're at the business. I don't know, but it's another way that we can kind of get the same idea, not just for the business, but yeah, on the same line for the
Yep.
businesses, we can push it out to certain areas and get granular data back from those areas and know what the data from each, rather than pushing out like a big thing. And if they don't put in where they're at, we're just getting messy data for sure.
Right.
So yeah, so the big thing would be how much work we would want to put in that for a public facing thing. So that would be just making like 4 or 5 different versions of the survey that would correspond to 4 or 5 different areas of Portsmouth if we were to section it out. And then maybe we would do like an initial reach out to businesses, because that's where the QR codes would have to live. It's kind of silly to put a QR code on a website. I always think that's funny. When you go to a web page, it's like,
Right.
it's like, okay, rather than a link. So it would have to be like a physical thing, and I'm thinking like, where would we put it at businesses? So now that's why I mentioned phases, because like now I'm thinking, do we want to reach out to businesses first, have the QR code at the same time that we do the
Yeah, the more public.
the online survey, kind of like what we did last time, so that it's all happening at the same time, rather than like we do the online survey and then we reach out to businesses and then we essentially choose to run the survey again by putting out these sort of region-based QR code things. And again, I don't know. I don't typically do the QR code scan and take a survey thing. Like,
Mhm.
I don't know if I was at Liar's Bench, if I would do that, or if I'd even notice if there was a QR code placard sitting somewhere in the restaurant, you know, like I don't know. It might be more work than it's worth.
Right.
Or it could be a phase two. Again, that's why I was trying to come up with like a phased approach. Is, do we want to reach out to businesses, have them get on board and almost be participate in the putting out of the survey? Or do we just kind of want to get the survey out there like we did with the cable commission or the cable survey, and just get it out there, and then maybe based on what we get back, we'll decide whether we do need more granular data. I don't know. You know, or maybe say everybody puts in their address and they're putting the address and location of where they're also having issues. You know, and then that's another thing is like, we got to, when you guys look at the survey, there's like, I put a couple open-ended, but I think it's got to be more multiple choice. So that's where we would have to work. It's like, what area, what section are you having issues with? Like, it's hard. It would be hard for us to go through people's writing of like intersections, landmark, like it wouldn't be able to work. So we'd have to, that's what we need to come up with, is what's like it's like a district lines kind of thing, you know, like what's a good way that we can regionalize Portsmouth? There's the downtown Portsmouth, there's West End, and then I don't know, that's all I kind of noted
Right.
to name and give like an area location to.
Yeah, I mean, I thoughts. You're pretty quiet.
Sorry, so I speak a lot. So phased
No, no.
approach, who do we want to contact first and when and how, you know, like, do we want to just go with the survey, or do we want to start like thinking about a bigger thing with involvement with businesses? And then if we want regional data, I think we need to predefine the regions so that when people respond to the survey, they select, and then I'm just thinking afterwards to analyze the data. You don't want a bunch of people writing like, I had problems on the corner of, you can't, you know, when you have 1,000 responses like that, you're not going to be able to do anything with data that way. So if we make it multiple choice of like this area, downtown, this, or they can choose like my home, and we are giving that like an address value just currently on the survey. So yeah, so phases, and then how do we get location data that can be manipulated after the fact to get results?
So let me just say, Stephanie Secord will be able to help us out as she did with the prior survey we did. And so she will also aggregate the comments as she did last time. So hopefully that will help from an administrative level as we look at it. You could consider possibly doing it in kind of, to use the phases or multiple steps. You could do something simple with a reach out to the businesses. Hey, and you're really speaking just to the business owner. Do you have issues? Could we follow up with a second survey and a QR code if you are having ongoing issues and would like you would like to put something up? Because really, those are the people who are most likely to respond anyways, the people who are having issues.
Right.
And they might be saying, you know what, sure, my customers complain all the time. I'd be happy to put up a QR code for 2 weeks
Mhm.
to do that, but it could be more of a conversation, because that's what the new system is supposed to allow, which is just more contact with our local businesses, find out where the issues are and whether we can help them. And so maybe if it's the short survey that the owner or whoever's the operations manager might fill in, just their basic experience.
Right.
And then say, would you be interested in doing a QR code to get information from either your customers or, other users of your facility, in which case, you know, let us know, check this box, and we will send you something that you could post for 2 weeks or something. So I think there are opportunities depending on how you want to attack it. I also think even if you have general information, that's, you know, for purposes of going to the cell phone providers and saying, hey, we want to have a conversation. It seems roughly this area
Right,
has issues, because they'll do their own testing if they really
if they
wanna
haven't already.
grab this information and run with it. So I
We
think
talked
some
about-
general categories
Yeah.
of roughly what area do you live in? And some people may be willing to say what street, even if they don't want to put the number, and that would be enough. Because you've got the, you know, do you live here, you know? And then you've got the neighborhood or general area, or you could say street. I think, you know, Stephanie's pretty sophisticated at running these in the sense that, you know, we've pushed out a fair number of surveys over the years, and, you know, just through first MailChimp, and now we're using the Microsoft tools.
Yeah.
And she's, you know, I think if you give her some direction, she'll take this and bring back some options for you. She couldn't be here for today's meeting, but I figured this was a good first initial one
Right.
anyways, but she can watch this afterwards and I can follow up and see if you can hone in and find ways to make it easy to push something out.
Yeah, that's something that we talked about last time, was we kind of got to this point where we were like, I think we're data driven kind of by nature. All of us are like, you know, we want like this information, but then I kind of like threw a match into the pile and said, you know what? It doesn't really matter. Like we kind of represent our residents, and if they say they, you know, just cell phone service sucks, as simple as that, that's enough for us to start this conversation with, you know, we don't need to go to them with like, at these GPS coordinates and on this street, people are reporting, you know, they're going to have to figure that out on their own. Like, how much work do we really need to do? If we were lawyers and we were going to go sue somebody or something, you know, fine. Yeah, we need to get all this backing and we need to fight for our cause. But with the limited power that we already have vested in us as a committee, we really just, that is our argument, is our residents, gotta stop saying that, constituents, are saying that they're having an issue. And you know, so maybe like, you know, maybe, again, the location, I don't know, it's kind of like this battle. It's like, I personally like it because my brain works that way, but maybe it's more work than it's worth. And it's really just to get a conversation started that, you know, maybe just, you know, I don't know.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I don't know. I actually would like to be able to provide at least some general information, say, hey, look, they're having specific, because
Well, yeah, but I mean, like, again, to the point where we're like, really, like, if we just put a
Being-
question about, and if they don't answer, I'd say even if we get 75% of people put in some type of recognizable location, like, good enough, rather than like making 4 different surveys, putting 4 different QR codes, you know, maybe with the businesses, we could be more granular, but people are going to say, you know, it's like, do you reside in Portsmouth? Yes or no? So, you know, and you know, so that's another thing I think we should get back to. I think that we should probably just like get through the survey, kind of nail down. I kind of put it in sections so that it's just, what do we want from these people? And then we can think about the questions in those sections to get that information best and clean. And then maybe in another meeting, figure out like again, I keep calling phases, like how do we want to, do we need to really focus on the regions? Do you think that the questions that we asked about location of where they're having issues is sufficient? I don't know. So what are your thoughts on that? Like,
do we want to take a look at what the
yeah, I'd say, I don't know, I think that's good, because then we can nail it down, because some of the stuff that we're talking about is essentially we could format the survey to achieve. So if we focus on that first, then maybe we won't have these additional issues later. You want me to like present it?
yeah, so I don't know how we want to do this.
Yep,
Okay.
no, any way you want to walk through it works for me. Ash, I just want to make sure, can you hear us okay?
Yes, I can.
Awesome, welcome.
Thank you.
So I kind of just broke it up into, again, sections, because I was having a hard time figuring out the exact questions, which is what I think we should figure out as a committee. So the first one I called it residency confirmation. it's not really just making sure that they're a resident, it's just identifying them as a resident or perhaps someone who works in Portsmouth, which is why I put the second question as like, or third is, do you work or are you frequently in Portsmouth? So that would be for someone who answered, no, I'm not a resident, but I work in frequent, I don't know if it really matters.
I think it's helpful.
Yeah, so anyways, I put that out. And then, for the second question, so first question is like, do you currently reside in Portsmouth or are you a Portsmouth resident? We can ask it either way. Yes or no. I don't know if it really matters where they reside as far as neighborhood, but because I don't know if, again, this is where like people could put in like a million different answers and then we just have like a million different responses that we can't lump together into data. So that's,
I like kind of similar to the like 7 or 8 broad groupings. And I would just, so that they're not stressing, how would you identify your neighborhood? West End, North End, and give them choices.
Again, yeah, rather than having it written in.
But they could have an other if they can't quite figure it out. If
For
they
sure.
live, on the edge of Greenland, and so it doesn't feel like they're, fall in any of the other categories, because then it's not too many for us to figure out where do we tuck them.
or do we want to just put like the option for them to enter just a street name?
Yes, or we could say,
Sure.
or enter a street name.
Right.
And,
Yeah,
like,
I
I
would
like
give it
that. They can choose. They can,
and,
yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna put that, so I can edit that to be like multiple responses. The thing, if there are. So I have downtown South End, Atlantic Heights were again, the only, that's what I was saying, it's like, it's just my knowledge of Portsmouth. I can't think of all like the,
Stephanie can help with that.
okay, cool, perfect, hands
Yeah.
off, like, great idea. So we want like a multiple and then.
We
maybe-
kind of, people think, I live in Elwyn Park.
Right.
Exactly, yeah.
We can probably snag a few of those and then we'll have or other, name your street,
Yeah.
11 Panaway.
Right. Yeah, so again, having like, yeah, the other or.
Yep.
I don't know if we specify as other or, or.
Other or
prefer-
street name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
or
Yeah, we could
prefer
just do
it,
that.
Yep, okay.
And then, again, then identifying somebody who may not be a resident, but works in Portsmouth and
Yep.
frequently visits. That was the third question.
Yep.
Are there any other demographic like questions that we want to get about the person doing the survey? Or do you think just like, are you a Portsmouth resident or are you somebody who just frequently here? I don't know, again, if that gives any weight or even changes anything, but some information to get.
I don't know, I kind of, I don't know that we need more info.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think
because we're
this-
gonna be getting information in the next section. As far
Yeah,
as
so
the
then section
carrier and-
2 is the cellular provider information. This is obviously the bread and butter of it. Identifying a cellular provider will, again, listing multiple choice so that we can then sort on all this and then having an other option for the Cricket Wireless or whatever people who are very unique and far and few between. And then starting out broad, which is kind of what I did with question 5. Question 5 is how would you rate your overall cell service? So just like an overall kind of, we could do it 1 to 5. I just put excellent, good, fair, and
I
poor.
thought that's simple enough.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then, that just gets us a feel so that, again, even with those first 5 questions, I think that gives us, again, all we really need is for somebody that we're representing to say, I'm not happy with this. So with
Yep.
those first 5 questions, we'll get that answer is these people who live or work in Portsmouth have this cell phone service and they are saying this about it. So that was kind of my first view. The 6th question is one that we talked about last time because we brought it up as like a security sort of issue. Basically identifying people that their only form of communication while they're at home, such as myself, is a cell phone. So like, I don't have a landline. I have no way to call 911 per se.
You say, are you dependent on it?
Yeah, so it's like, I put, is your cell phone your only form of voice communication at home? And then I put, i.e., do you have a landline? And then the answers are, yes, my cell phone is my only voice communication device. I should put it at home. Or the other one is, no, I also have a landline phone.
I
we
thought that's important
yeah, we thought
information
that
to
that would
get.
just give a good weight, especially if we find like a significant number of people fall into that category, that
Yeah.
again, being a security safety issue might give just more weight
More
to
weight
our
to it, yeah.
argument.
Yep.
That's all I kind of got for the cellular provider information. The next one is the service issues, which is kind of, I tried to do the same thing, which is giving people some type of multiple choice rather than like an open-ended discussion. That, you know, we're just gonna have to read and interpret rather than being able to like sort and organize. So, you know, so the service issues would be, have you experienced any recurring issues? Yes or no? If yes, what type? I came up with the things that I've thought were the most, you know, like there's either like no service, full bars, but no, you know, like you have full service, but it's not working. And then we go into like voice calls, either dropped calls or poor quality, choppy audio delays. I thought that I might even combine those just for simplification, because that's just voice communication, you know, all in one. The sending and receiving text messages, I didn't want to add that, but it is a major component of it. But I don't know if that's usually the only thing that works because of the way that it's, you know, it's like meant to like
Right.
keep pushing
Well,
until it gets a piece
but
of service and pushes out. But
Here's it's, you know, I look at it as what a differentiation between, like, for instance, myself and my son. My son only voice calls us
yeah,
because we're old.
yeah.
And, you know, normal. So we do have to understand that it's very possible that a good part of, you know, the people we represent are not going to be using
They
voice
use
skills
voice
at
call.
all.
Okay, good.
Which is, and to be honest, texting is actually in some ways a more reliable way of communication, because since it's digital, it's knowing that, you know, us, if you're not a little more technically inclined, it's kind of like an email, and that depending on the transfer rate, it may eventually get there. But voice requires a standard amount of transfer every second.
Mhm.
Otherwise, it sounds
Constantly
choppy, just
processing.
like with, you know, just like with video. If, you know, you're watching TV and it starts to get pixelated, it's because there's not enough data transferring. It's not at that
Yeah, it's
particular
gotta be a
time.
constant
Whereas with
stream
text-
rather than just
Yeah,
bursts.
text can be in bursts, so you don't have to worry as much. So if you're not able to text, that's a serious problem. Like,
Yeah.
there's a serious transfer issue.
Do you guys think that I should combine the drop the voice calls and poor call quality and choppy audio delays? I think that like it's all kind of the same. It's like choppy audio and dropped calls and kind of hand in hand, but I don't know.
I like maybe combining them, but
The
that would
thick-
just be my thought,
all
but
kind of
I don't
thing.
know.
Like you're either
I'll leave
dropping
it.
calls or it's choppy or it cuts off or, you know, it's all kind of, or there's an echo, like it all is kind of the same voice. But unless we really, the only other thing is like the dropped calls is kind of like a nice specific
It is. It is.
indicator, like actually.
Yeah,
like-
many. There are only 6 choices. 1, 2, 3,
Okay, we'll
4,
keep it for
5,
now.
6. Yeah.
I'm always trying to
Feedback,
consolidate.
but
And
Yeah.
then, you know, and then this one's like rhetorical, of the location. You know, like where do you frequently experience these issues? Again, I did like at home, at work, while commuting, driving, walking, biking, at a specific location, you know, please list below, I would put, but this isn't really getting us data because we wouldn't know this. You know, I don't know where they work. I don't know where their home is. So, but it also kind of is useful. It's like all of, you know, many of our constituents are reporting data issues at home.
Mhm.
So like at their home, and 70, you know, this is just imagining on best case scenario, and 70% of those people, their only form of voice
Right.
communication
Is there?
is their cell phone.
Yeah.
We have a problem. So you know, so that kind of, but then
I feel like this in some ways is sort of fishing for information without
Mhm.
making it obvious that we're fishing for information. Like, okay, yeah, if it's at work, okay, but if it's at home, that's your only form of communication. Yeah, that is something that we need to. And I guess the other thing too is maybe the question's fishing for a few specific pieces of information, like, okay, at home, if we see a large number at home, but also if people are willing to list a specific location, because then at that point we can maybe have location data that's not specific to like where the, you know, if we do try to geographically localized where each, the information or the surveys are coming from. So like, for instance, I'm thinking like, just popped into my head, like if people are walking the rail trail. Okay, the rail trail, yeah, it's probably, if there may be big sections of places where the signal is definitely low. Is that a problem? I don't know. It might be, because if you've ever walked the rail trail, it's easily 2 miles, or in some places it's 2-3 miles before you can get to a road, get off the rail trail. So I don't know how often that, so I'd be interested to leave that as is. I think.
Okay.
Yeah,
And I'm,
So
happy-
we get.
I
We
reworded,
get.
the 10th question was saying, if you selected other, then please provide the approximate address, intersection, or landmark. I'm just putting, I just put, please provide approximate addresses, intersections, or landmarks where you experience issues, and it's just gonna be an open-ended question. Since we have someone to help with the
right.
data, it's like she can go through and
Let's
like
see it and let's
read
see
what
we get.
people say, and maybe
Yep.
just, we can then group things. And it's like, okay, this is West End, this is
Yeah.
this, we can, we can
Yep.
identify things based on what people say, but that might achieve both things. And if someone's really upset about not having service in a place,
They're gonna
I
let
think
you
that they
know.
would put White Heron every
Yep.
time I get a coffee, horrible.
Yep.
Or whatever,
Mhm.
and then we can figure it out, so. And then last is just like, do you have any additional details about your cellular service experience in Portsmouth?
Yep.
Whatever,
Let's see what
we'll
we
read
get.
those for funds later,
Yeah.
like we did with
Yeah.
Comcast.
Right.
Sure, there'll be people with comments.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know, that's kind of what I got. I made a couple edits, like I said, just sort of changed that last question mostly. And I didn't consolidate the dropped calls, because I do like that as a data point. Yeah. Is there anything else that you guys think that we need to get?
Everybody. If I buy a TV, I'm gonna get 5 of these surveys in my inbox every time. If there was a box that I could pick no surveys and I'll buy the TV, I would do it. So we need to
That's it.
motivate people to take
I
this
thought
by
about that
taking,
too.
take question 7 and put it at the top. So they're motivated to say, shit, yeah, I got problems.
Okay.
Let me tell you about them right now. But if you ask them what their address is and all this other
You
light
think
fluffy
that- yeah,
stuff
yeah.
first, they're just gonna say, this is just another Best Buy survey. I'm sick of them.
That's a good,
So these will
Yeah.
You
get,
want to get them motivated to fill out
No,
more.
it's how you,
Get the
in the
problem
interest
right
of
out front.
providing,
yeah, I kind of like that
In the
idea of
interest of
like
providing-
immediately starting in.
Draw them in.
It's like, have you been having issues? You say
Right.
yes, and then yes, and it's like, okay, now let us know who you
And
are.
so then they feel like this might make a difference.
so they
in my life.
start almost with section 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
start
they
with
fill out
section-
the other
I'm guessing.
subheaders.
I'm guessing, I'm
It would
just
be
sick of filling
section
out
3,
surveys.
section 2, it would be 3, 2, 1,
Every time
4.
you click buy.
Because
you get a
actually,
survey.
now that you say that, yeah, a lot of,
They're trying to
surveys
figure
have
out
been-
how to sell more stuff by
Yeah.
giving you a survey on every loaf of bread you buy.
So this will be going in the e-newsletter. So it would be folks who are signed up for our electronic newsletter. And then there'd be a little blurb. And I think Stephanie can help us, and Monty, write that little blurb that says, do you have issues with cell phone service either at home or elsewhere here in Portsmouth? We'd like to hear from you. Please, if you are interested in providing your opinion,
Yeah,
here's the link to this, to a short survey.
and statistically, we want to know who isn't having any problems at all too, so that we don't have skewed data with just the people who are having problems.
So that's what I do have,
Well,
like,
yes,
they can select actual.
That's
Yeah,
what
they
we
can
want to
select
know. How
actual-
big is the
they can say that
problem?
They're not.
Is there a
experiencing any
problem,
issues.
or are there just
Yeah,
10
so they do have
angry
that.
people out there?
The other thing that we currently don't have on here, which we could put at the end, is if they want to include their email for us to have
Follow
some
up.
form of being able to follow up with them, especially if somebody brings up with, like a specific issue that we
Yep.
can,
Directly
like the
address.
Comcast, I think even
Mhm.
during that process,
Sure.
we
Yep.
ended up reaching out to people and saying,
Yep.
hey, that specific issue,
Yep.
let's figure that out.
And we updated our website with FAQs, how to get help.
So, so we could put just like and like, if you please provide your
If you would,
email.
if you are willing for follow-up questions, should we have some, would you be willing? Sorry, I know we should have good data.
I hesitate to click that off. Oh, boy, they're gonna send me more.
Yeah, I like it. Thank you for putting this together.
Yeah, good list.
Ash, you got any, I know you don't have it in front of you, but do you have any?
Yeah, so I was thinking, good idea, once we get these addresses, we could do a heat map, Google wise and locate those areas. If something is, if the customer reports a problem, it will be a different color versus someone who doesn't report, say my service is fine. So use that just to map it. That could give us a approximate area. But I think, those questions are good. I like it because at least it's straightforward. Like Suzanne said, mostly people who have issues are going to answer these. But we just make it like direct, location. Also, maybe, usage. Do we care how they use it? Is it a residential or commercial? Something.
I think most folks who are through our e-newsletter are predominantly residents, but I think some businesses do, sign up to keep abreast of,
Right.
construction items. So what we could do is we
Yeah.
could possibly send out, when we write the blurb that says a separate survey will be directed towards businesses and it will go through our new,
Right.
portal.
Yeah.
I mean, it's actually just sort of popped into my head. Sorry to complete tangent, Rob Capone tangent here. Is for instance, if I don't know if any of you guys have been to Burger Bar, but their
Yes.
menu is a QR code. So you have to have your phone with you, but that means that, and I believe it's it normally relies on cellular. So if they don't have good cell coverage, they don't have, you can't see the menu. So I'm sure that I'm sure that in that kind of situation, perhaps a restaurant will say, you know what, we'll just have an access point so that you can get out. But if we were in a situation where you could have that, is it possible also for businesses to sort of, if you could have good cell coverage, reach in and really latch onto that and be like, we don't have to provide paper menus anymore, and we can change our menus more frequently because all it takes is the change off of a web page, which I don't know, but this might be something like that. It might be valuable to work with a business as well as with residents and with actual physical people.
Yeah, so now that we got the survey down, I mean, that's what I was saying, was then now it's kind of up to like the phases of like, do we kind of just want to blast this out? Do we want to make a more coordinated attack plan with businesses, reach out to them first with just a quick, hey, we're looking at this. We're going to be kind of what we said to the same cell phone letters, like we're looking at this, we're looking into it, we're going to be running surveys. Would and then would we be able to put QR codes in, would you be willing to participate in helping us get this information out? And then and I guess like we could give them if we're already going to be sending them something, rather than sending two things, I'd want to do it all at once. Do you rely on cell phone service for your POS system or other merchant related things? Do you experience issues in your business? I don't know, that would be a separate survey probably, but the question is like, do we want to do that prior to this?
Yeah.
So that they can also, again, though, it's like, I'm a naysayer. I will not, if I go to Burger Bar, like, yeah, I'll scan the menu, but like, no, I'm not going to scan. It's like, I also like have two kids, I'm up to my ears. Like if I get 5 minutes in peace at dinner, I'm not going to fill out a survey, So that's what I mean. It's like, or is it just like a lot of additional meetings, additional survey, additional waiting for businesses to get back to us for 10 additional responses that people might scan? I don't know. Maybe not.
It feels like we're going in the back door. Is there anybody at Verizon that could tell us how many of their calls got dropped in Portsmouth and what areas of Portsmouth?
That's part of the reach out is going to be
They're going to
them for that.
that
Usually
data.
in the past, I think that they've been a little bit more kept that tight.
Of course, they wouldn't want anybody to know that they've got a
Exactly.
20% failure rate.
Um,
Yeah.
The guy, like the Comcast guy, I don't know if you were here for that meeting, he they just tout very generic numbers. He said we had
Right.
20%
I see.
less like truck rollouts or something like that. And it's like, okay, is that because everybody's online arguing with the AI trying to get their problems fixed and you guys aren't like when you should be rolling out more trucks? Is like, I don't know if that data is.
Yeah,
good
I
or bad,
remember
you know?
that.
So that's the kind of, so far, that's what I've seen. But yes, that's definitely, we're gonna be asking them, what
Good.
types of issues are you having?
Yeah, what are people
What-
complaining about? Yeah, okay.
What are you doing about it? What is your hurdle to do that thing about it? How can we help? Yeah,
Here
so,
comes
so yeah,
tourist
so when we
season.
get there, yeah. But what we've been wanting to do is kind of come in with some sort of, you know, like, we have this, you know, information, like, what do you gotta say about this kind of thing? Like, we want to have,
Probably get the same answer.
we want to have
We're
our
working on it.
cards stacked in our favor, but yeah. So I don't know, that, you know, I think that's, I don't know. Yeah, like I said, I'm balanced on both. It could just be a big waste of time.
So maybe
Well,
keep
try
it
it.
simple.
Give it a try, yeah.
You know, push out to the businesses in the first instance, and then if it looks like they're cooperative, we get a lot of responses. I don't think it's a problem to send something out, you know, 3 weeks later to say, hey, we got in our responses and it turns out your corridor seems to have a lot of issues. We'll see where we are in terms of getting representatives here. And then we could always follow up if the business wants to follow up. Meantime, you know, I think the fact that we're interested, you know, it just shows the businesses that there's interest in making sure that they can, you know,
Advocate for them.
yeah, I'm tired running out of
No
words.
worries.
Understandable, yeah. You do this all day? Oh, my
A lot of meetings too.
God. Ugh.
All right. So I guess what, at this point,
So I think if Louis gives us the updated, because I know he's been working, I can work with Stephanie and Stephanie can, you know,
She'll
as
brush
need
it up.
to,
Yeah, make it
work with
good.
us, get it into the format that we would push it out in.
yeah,
I could ask her to mock one up for the businesses based on this. And then that way you guys could look at 2 different ones at the next meeting.
sounds cool with me,
Sure,
guys. Yes.
Good.
excellent.
So
Next
yeah,
step.
just to let you guys know so that we don't have to send it
Yep.
and reapprove. So again, the changes I made, I did add a sentence at the end. Please provide your contact information we can use to follow up with you, provide additional updates or additional information. And then I just put like email / phone number so they could put either or,
Yeah.
because I don't know, you know, sometimes I don't want to
Yeah.
give out their email and they can just give a phone number, whatever. I'm sure Stephanie will be able to
Yep.
make this proper.
Yeah.
And then yeah, then just rather than if you selected other, provide the address. So we're gonna ask, please provide address, approximate intersections, landmarks, experience, issues. That's gonna be an open-ended response and we'll just have to sit for that information. So
I just thought of something, I have a question on there. Do you use Geek Squad and is your equipment working properly?
Right.
Because it could be operator error
send this to you.
in half of these cases. I know in mine it is.
And I was a little slow to follow up with the schools because we talked about the signal at some
Right.
of the various schools. So I'm waiting to hear back.
Okay.
So.
Okay.
I was slow reaching out until all of a sudden I was like, oh, wait, that was. on my
You have
list."
many irons in the fire.
Thanks for your work.
No, so hopefully I'll hear back from them by the time we have 2
All right, so yeah,
survey
so,
drafts to
so
look
as we're
at.
finishing up this
Yeah.
item, I guess our next step is gonna be, we'll have Stephanie mock something up.
Yep.
And then maybe have a second one for
Just
residents
targeted to businesses.
and one targeted to businesses, and we'll see what it looks like for next meeting.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'll work on the businesses one and
Alright.
I might even just shoot it
Yeah.
over. It's gonna be kind of a little bit of the same, so I'll shoot it
Right.
over to Stephanie and then maybe we could just present both at the same time. It'd be
Right.
like-
Exactly.
She
Well,
can easily add.
Yep.
Or remove.
Okay.
Okay.
Motion to do so.
Cool,
Mhm.
right? Okay, so we're good, move on to the next,
Mhm.
Mhm.
which is other business.
I don't have any other business.
I don't have anything.
Just put his glasses.
Nope, he's got something up his sleeve.
Nope.
No sleeves.
Oh, we could set another meeting.
We have no public, so we have no public comment. So,
Is this time working for you, Ash?
Yes, it does. Yeah, yeah, it does. I just today I was I passed an accident actually.
Yeah, no worries. Okay, so how far forward do we want to go?
I seem to recall we've got school vacation week, which
I don't have a
is the
calendar.
last week.
Yeah, last week of April, I'm gonna be
Okay,
gone.
so hang on. All right, so today is the 2nd.
We do the 16th, which is in 2 weeks.
I think that might work. Let me just make sure I got nothing. All right, so I have physical therapy at 4 o'clock. It finishes at 5, so I could probably do like 5:15. You just have to give me 15 minutes to
On the
get here.
16th?
And
April?
see, I was making them all at the end of the day. So
What day is that? My calendar's not working.
It's. a
that is Wednesday again.
Wednesday,
so
April
this
16th.
time.
Probably full.
I think the other option would be the 23rd of the Wednesday, the 23rd. I do, again, my physical therapy is at 4 o'clock, but if you just give me 15 minutes to get back here,
Yep.
you know, we could just set it for 5:15.
Yeah,
Right.
fine.
Fine
Yeah,
with me.
It should be-
23rd be okay?
Yep.
Yeah, I think I'd like to go.
Could we oh, I was trying to see.
What's up?
This is that too long? The 30th or no? That's probably too long.
No, 30th is school
School
break.
vacation, I won't
So
be
you
here, but I
won't-
mean, you guys can
Ah,
totally meet.
No.
I'll be in.
Does the 23rd not work for you?
a little bit tight.
Or the
So
Would the 16th work better? Because Stephanie may be able to turn this around in 2 weeks. If there's a problem, I can let you know.
you said 23rd, like 5:15, right?
23rd at 5:15?
Yeah. I think you said you will be available at 5:15, right?
Yes.
For you? Yeah. Yeah, let's do that. This
Okay, 23rd at 5:15.
5:15.
I think there's another meeting in here possibly in this room, so we just may be upstairs or something.
All right.
I'll figure that all out.
As long as the public can find us, right?
Hopefully not.
They will not.
We're recording right now. Just kidding.
Quote Bob Euchre from Major League. That's all right. Nobody's listening.
All right, so I've got April 23rd, 5:15 to 6:15. Like, okay, place to be determined. They might be done in by then, but we'll find out. Okay,
All right.
Good.
So motion to adjourn,
I'll second it.
all in favor?
I
Okay. Excellent.
Under an hour. Not bad.
can we hit the end the record here?